Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Joe, and today I'm going to show you how to make your very own pre-hung door. Now, this door itself, we actually got the door used off of a convenience store out on the Cape, but we're going to build the entire jamb, as well as show you how to weather strip it and build the threshold out of solid oak. Alright, so let's jump right into it. Okay, so we actually have two doors that we're making here. We're only going to focus on one in this video, but I have the main door here. This is going to become the new front entryway for my cabin up north. And then we have another screen door over here that is also going to be going on the cabin. The screen isn't going to set right into this frame. There's actually, the screen door is going to be set up. There's a porch that's about, I would say, like 6 feet deep, and then it's going to be the front door. So I'm not going to focus too much on the screen door, but just to give you a quick look at it. Basically, this was just a refurbished door. The frame was falling apart a little bit. We resecured the frame. We redid all around the screens. The screens look a little run down. That's just because we kept the existing screens because they're actually copper. And to get new copper screens was quite expensive. I did attempt to clean them up, but as you can imagine, cleaning up copper screening is not the easiest task. So if anybody does know a nice, easy way to clean the copper screen to get it to kind of have its luster back, please leave me a note in the comments. I'd love to know how to do that, but I just tried to with some just some polish, just like that you would use for vocal instruments, I guess, for brass polish, and it was working really well. But the problem was it was very tedious, and it was only getting the very surface. It wasn't actually getting into the creases, and you can see, you know, the mesh. I don't know how this is going to show up on camera, but it overlaps each piece, so it was getting the surface, but it wasn't getting underneath it. So we are going to focus on this door. So the door itself and the screen door actually came off of the same convenience store. So I picked up both doors. I got the doors super cheap, and that's the main reason why we didn't build the doors. I could not have built the doors for the price that I was able to pick up both of them. And they were in really good shape, especially this door here. And this was the exact design that I was going for, aesthetics that I was going for the cabin. So it ended up working out perfectly. We are going to focus a lot on building this frame and the threshold, which is all brand new. And you could see here we essentially made a brand new pre-hung door like you would buy directly from a big box store or a custom made door. And the main reason for this is because I want to be able to throw this right on the back of my truck, bring it up north, pop it right in, and make it as easy as possible for myself on the way up there. Now we did put some new hardware on the door as well. And I know not everybody likes brass, but I'm going with brass because it fits the aesthetic of the camp that we're going to be putting this in. So we have solid brass hardware. We have on the screen door, we have rub brass, and that's only because this already came with this antique handle. And I did try to clean it up, but I couldn't, has a little tarnish left on it still. I couldn't get it perfect, but I liked the way it looked. And the polished brass just looked like it was gonna pop a little too much with that. So we do have different finishes. We have the slightly tarnished, and then the polished brass. But all in all, I think they both came out great. And when I get them up north, I'll share that with you guys. But at this point, I don't think these are getting up north till. Sorry, they're not getting installed up north until the spring. I'm going to get them up there in a couple of weeks, but I don't think I'm going to start the process of ripping a hole in front of the camp now, just in case just in case it doesn't go well, because it's a bit of an ordeal to get supplies up to where I am. So let's jump right in and start building the door frame and getting these two doors cleaned up. All right, thanks for watching. I'm going to start off with building the threshold for the door frame, and I'm going to make the threshold out of white oak, since white oak is naturally weather resistant. And at the end of this, you're going to see the only finish or protection I'm going to have on this is a little bit of linseed oil to keep a natural look. So the white oak is a perfect choice for this. It will also wear really well with people walking over the threshold and things being rubbed against it over the life of it. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm just cutting up a couple of pieces of white oak to length. You can see here the face of this board was pretty flat, so I went ahead and I skipped face jointing it and went right to planing it. I am going to have to laminate two of these together to get to the correct thickness that I need for the threshold. And you can see here to laminate these together, I'm just using a good waterproof glue, in this case Tite Bond 3, and I'm using it very, very liberally, making sure that there's absolutely no spots that are not going to be covered in glue. And we'll just clamp this up and put it to the side while we move on to making the rest of the frame, and then we'll come back to this in a little bit. So as I mentioned, this door is going to be going in a cabin, and on the inside of the cabin the door frame is going to be exposed. So I wanted to choose a material that was going to match the existing cabin. So I was able to get this, what I think is Doug fir from a co-worker of mine that he let me have for free. And I already went ahead and I milled it up to get to the point where it looks right now, and now I'm just going to go ahead and cut it to final length. Okay, so once I have all the frame pieces cut to the right length, the next thing I have to do is assemble them. Now, I don't have a fancy domino jointer, but what I do have are these dowel jigs from Jessam that work really, really well. They have really good reference points. I have them in 3 different sizes, and I could not recommend these things more for the price. Yes, it takes a little bit longer, but they are significantly cheaper than a domino, and yes, they are more expensive than a lot of the dowel jigs on Amazon, but in this case I would say you certainly get what you pay for. The quality of these is phenomenal, and the accuracy is even better, which is what I really, really like about them. I actually got a few things from Jessam now. I'm just finding their products to be really, really well made and work really well. So I'm going to continue to buy stuff from these guys. So I'm using pretty large 1/2-inch dowels to hold the frame together, mainly because you need something pretty robust to make sure that the door frame's not going to rack at all. But what I'm doing here is I'm just rounding over the edges of the dowels. Makes them a little bit easier to put in place, as well as gives a place for the glue to go when I do get to the point of gluing it up. But right now, just dry fitting everything together, and we'll see how it looks. So I just wanted to take a minute to explain why I'm making the door frame to start with. And the reason is the place where this door has to go on my cabin, I essentially couldn't get a standard door that was going to fit. So I wanted to get something that I could bring up in one unit, so really a pre-hung door essentially, that I could bring up with me and then just frame in to the opening. The opening, which doesn't exist, I have to make that myself as well. So what I ended up doing is I ended up buying a secondhand door that actually came off of a convenience store down on the Cape, and then I cut that door to fit the size of the frame that I needed, and then I built this door jamb or door frame to fit that door. And you'll see here at the end what I end up with is essentially a pre-hung door that just like anything else that you would buy brand new from the hardware store, except it's to the exact dimensions that I need it for the space that I'll be using it. Okay, so with the top and the sides of the door frame pretty much ready to go, we're going to move back to the threshold so we can assemble the whole frame. So we're going to start off just by milling our new thicker block of white oak together to get to the final dimension of what we need for the threshold. And now I'm just sketching on to the side of that block the pattern to the shape that we're going to need. Here I'm going to use my bandsaw to rough out that shape. And this is just putting about, I think it was like a 15-degree angle on the threshold. And this is really, it's there, one, so you don't stub your toe as you're walking in, you don't have to step up. But it also helps keep water and debris and anything else shedding to the outside of the house, away from the door. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just making notches on either end of the threshold that are going to allow the threshold to extend about 3.5, 4 inches to the outside of the door frame. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow the trim that's eventually going to go around the outside of the door frame to sit directly on the threshold. So this isn't necessary. You could just have your threshold be flush to the inner part of the frame, but I do think this will make it look a little nicer, as well as it will keep the trim of the door off of the ground, which will help preserve the life of the trim. And right back to my dowel jig to use to assemble the threshold into the rest of the frame. At this point we have a door frame assembled, but we don't have anything that's actually going to stop the door. Now, I don't exactly know what these are called. I'm going to just call them the door stops. When I did some research on how to build this frame, I noticed that some people cut these directly into the wood that they were using for the frame itself, and others attach them as a separate piece of wood. In my case, I chose to attach these as a separate piece of wood because I'm going to be using a different material again. So I'm going back to white oak for the stops, and I did that for 2 reasons. One, because this is going to be on the outside, exposed to the weather, and I thought the white oak would fare better than the fir to the elements, even though it is going to be painted. But also because the white oak itself is harder, and it's going to be having the door slammed and pushed against it. So I figured it would wear a little bit better, as well as having people and things brush against the door as people are walking in and out of it. Alright, so I made a little mistake, or maybe not so much a mistake, as I was trying to cut some corners to go a little quicker. So I already had some stock that was already 1 inch thick, this white oak right here, and I was hoping to use that to case out the door to make the stop for the door in the jamb. And it was looking okay. It looks a little chunky, but the biggest problem that I'm just realizing is that there's not going to be enough room right here to actually fit your hand to open the door, because the doorknob is actually going to be almost, not quite rubbing against it, but it's going to be uncomfortably close. But I'm not loving how thick these are looking anyways, so I'm going to do what I should have done to start, which is I'm going to go ahead and mill these down, and they're going to end up being maybe 5/8, ½ inch, somewhere around there. They do need to be just wide enough for the weather stripping to set on them. The weather stripping is exactly ½ inch when it's compressed. So I got to be at least a ½ inch, probably going to aim for around 5/8. Okay, so on the table saw there, all I did was I cut a little rabbet into all of the casing pieces that are going to go around the perimeter of the door, and these are going to work as the jamb that blocks the door in. So the whole point of that rabbet is so that we can get our insulation right in there. So little ribs on it, little spikes right there, that are just going to slide into the groove and grab it. Now we're going to attach this to the larger part of the casing, and eventually how this is going to work is this is just going to slide right into that groove, right like that, and that will give us our insulation. Alright, at this point I'm going to assemble some of the door casing, but not all of it. The reason why I'm only going to do some of it and not all of it is I want to be able to take this piece of the casing off and router it right next to the door itself to get the hinge pockets so that everything lines up perfectly. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get the casing part on the top here, and on the right side, if you were looking at the door, I'll get those glued and pin nailed on there to hold them in place. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to disassemble this side of the frame and work on getting the hinge pockets routed out. Now brace yourself, everyone, for mistake number 2 in 3, 2, 1. Yep. So if you can't really see it here down on the right side of the screen, is when I milled these boards narrower, I inadvertently created a gap because I just wasn't thinking. So since I already had all the glue on everything and I didn't want to deal with trying to wipe everything down, I just shifted that piece to the bottom, knowing that it was going to be easier to make a piece to fill the small void at the top, and that I could fill that in to the point where you'd never even notice that it was filled in. Okay, so with the mistake out of the way, and that's our final mistake for this build, hopefully, I'm moving back over to the other side of the door jamb that we didn't attach to the frame because we wanted to route out the hinge pockets. So I went ahead, I routed out the hinge pockets. I'm putting on that jamb piece or door stop or whatever we want to call that, and then this side of the frame will be ready, and then we will be able to assemble everything for the final time with some glue. In the final assembly, this is super easy. The dowels really make the assembly a no-brainer. Everything lines back up perfectly, just a little bit of glue, some taps with the hammer, and then a final check at the end just to make sure that everything remains square, which of course it did, since I took my time drilling out all the dowels very, very accurately. So, as I mentioned, I did not build the door, I bought the door, and honestly, that was mainly because I could not have built this door for the price I was able to get this door secondhand. And it was in one, great condition, and two, it was pretty much the exact style that I was looking for to fit the time period that my camp was built. So I just had a little bit of work to do to this door. Had to sand down all the finish and drill out, as you can see there, for the new lock sets. And then the last step here was to trim the door down to its final dimensions. I do have another video where I talk about like how you flip the hinges. So the door was originally a right hand open door. I did have to flip the hinges to make it left swing. And now we're just going to finish this up with some finishing. So you can see already I went ahead and painted the frame. And the frame and the door are that same color green, which matches the rest of the trim on my camp. As far as coats, there's 2 coats of primer and 3 coats of the green final coat, which was a Benjamin Moore exterior finish. And then for the threshold, all I'm doing for the threshold is putting, I think I put 3 coats of linseed oil on it to keep the natural color of the white oak itself. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get this door installed in my camp this year, so this is going to have to wait till next spring when I can get this up and put in place. But when I do, I'll be sure to post some pictures or video of it in its final place.